Donald Trump 2024, Ron DeSantis 2024, or what about Ron 2024? Yeah, let's talk about that.
Instead of focusing on winning arguments, we're teaching the basic fundamentals of sales and marketing and how we can use them to win in the world of politics, teaching you how to meet people where they're at on the issues they care about. Welcome to the Brian Nichols Show.
Well, hey there, folks. Brian Nichols here on the Brian Nichols Show, and thank you for joining us on, of course, another fun-filled episode. I am, as always, your humble host, joining you live from our Cardio Miracle Studios. Hey, if you want to go ahead and take advantage of the best resource I've ever found to help support heart health, we'll head over to cardiomiracle.com. I'll talk about that more later, but today we're going to talk about, yes, not just the idea of Ron, but specifically, could that duo help prevent worst case scenario for not just our country, but dare I say, for our planet? Joining me from the Constitutional Rights Pack, Carter Clews. Welcome here to the Brian Nichols Show.
Thank you, Brian. It's great to be here. I appreciate everything you do. I watch you, and it's always fascinating. Let's hope we can measure up to your past performances.
Carter, I appreciate you very much. Thank you for the kind words, and mutually looking forward to digging into all the great things you guys bring to the table. You guys have been doing great work over the Constitutional Rights Pack, and obviously helping fight back. I see some recognized names, some past guests here on the show that have earned your support, like the likes of one Thomas Massey, congressman there from Kentucky. So obviously we're walking in the same circles. But before we start digging into a little bit of the nitty gritty of all the stuff you guys are doing over there, do us a favor, Carter, first introduce yourself here to the Brian Nichols Show audience, and then maybe a little bit more context into the work you guys are doing at the Constitutional Rights Pack.
All right, Brian, thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. I am a veteran Washington political operative. Somebody told me once, you ought to preface that with an apology. But I've worked in Washington for about 50 years. And I think what I've learned over those 50 years is, as bad as people think it is, it's worse. Okay. I worked for the National Right to Work Committee, tremendous organization. I was the Director of Communications for the U.S. Senate Conference of the Majority, Communications Director for Judicial Watch, right across the board here. And the longer you're there, the more you feel like I need to take a bath. Okay. And so what we're doing now, Constitutional Rights Pack, is we are staking out the tough ground. We consider ourselves right at the front of the fight to take back America. And I do mean take back, because right now the other side is pretty much in total control. So I think that kind of sums it up.
Carter, I appreciate the outline, and I teased it, what we're going to dig into later in the episode, and that is Ron, a possible hybrid Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis campaign. But before we do that, seems to be maybe like the best case scenario to help avoid in kind of what we were talking about before we hit record, and that is the worst case scenario, right? You've been in this industry, this world for a number of years, as you outlined in your intro. So you obviously have gone through, you've seen the best, you've seen the worst. And from what we talked about before we hit record, this is getting to be the worst. So kind of set the stage here for us, Carter. Where do you see the country right now? And why do you think it's such an important time for us to be having this conversation?
Brian, where I see the country right now is in the midst of a fascist takeover. I'm just going to lay it on the line. I think that big government, big business have combined efforts now to essentially wipe out individual freedom. And somebody's going to say, well, that's kind of extreme. Well, let's think about it now. A couple of years ago, we had big government and big business combine to shut down businesses all over the country, shut down our schools, shut down our churches. They told us, well, it's only for a couple of weeks, 15 days. No, it was for 2 years. And once politicians get a taste of that kind of power, they never let it go. So they staged the election. And one of the reasons they did that was to stick this hand puppet in the White House. And he is a hand puppet who will do whatever he's told as long as he gets the pomp and the circumstance. And he has trampled every right imaginable over the past 2 years. Domestically and offshore, you can't think of anything the man has done right. Okay, he destroyed our energy industry with a stroke of his pen, and then he went offshore and destroyed another country.
Right.
And we have to say, and anybody who doesn't think Ukraine is destroyed, 400,000 dead young people, put that in perspective. The country only started out with around 30 or 40 million people. So put it in perspective as to, we only lost 250,000 in World War II in this country. So everything he has touched, they have used the iron fist of government to trample human rights. And they keep saying, the man, remember his Reichstag speech in September 1st of last year in Philadelphia. We have to restore democracy. Democracy. Well, number one, I'm sorry. That's the way. We are not a democracy to begin with. But if we were, do you think the American people would have voted to destroy our energy industry? I don't think so. Do you think the people would have voted to have some idiot president trigger double-digit inflation? I don't think so. Do you think the American people wanted us to spend, I think it's close to $500 trillion now, in supporting a crook grifter like Zelensky? I don't think so. So the democracy facade was for one reason, and that was to trample individual freedom and a democratic republic. And that's where we are, and they are doing it, and they're doing it well. And our side's doing a damn poor job of fighting back.
Well, and that goes to, there you go. Thank you for the segue there, Carter. That was a great segue to what can we do, right? And this is kind of where I wanted to tee up today's main conversation, is that you see there seems to be many different schools of thought. One school of thought is to play the game, but play it better. The other school of thought is to go in and clean house, admit that you're kind of, you're at a point where we can't keep doing this sunk cost fallacy. We need to cut our losses and if start fresh. There's another approach where it says, hey, we're on the tail end. Might as well just live to the best we can until we're out, just flaming out. And then there's the catastrophists, right? Doom and gloom. Woe is, the sky is falling, end of the world. Now, yes, things are getting bad, but is it getting that bad? I don't know. Well, I guess we'll discuss that today. But with all these different schools of thought, right, Carter, you look at where we are with the 2024 election, and there has been more or less those ideas are represented not just with, I'd say, the main contender in the GOP with Donald Trump, but also with the backbench, right? The folks leading the charge, like Ron DeSantis, like Vivek Ramaswamy, going through and actually raising these issues up, but doing so kind of sounding the alarm, right? And to the point you're raising, trying to bring some attention to this. But then there's other folks that were on stage there who simply say, we're the best country in the world. We just got to get back to our principles and doing what makes us great. So I think there's a lot of discrepancy on stage, right? Give us some of what your remedy, your prescription would be to actually address the problem we're seeing. But which of those kind of approaches do you think is going to be the best means of actually tackling the main issues?
Well, your summary of it was perfect. And those are all the various scenarios that we're looking at. I personally think we are, and I'm going to say it, I'm not a doom and gloom type guy. I'm a pretty optimistic guy, but I think right now the sky is falling. And the problem we're having is that those that we elected and those that the American people have tried to support, the conservative Inc. in Washington, are doing nothing to hold the sky up, let alone reverse the fall. Okay. I watched that debate. What a sorry performance, except for Vivek there, who seemed to say all the right things. And I happen to like the guy. But the rest of them, back in, I'm old, so I remember when Ronald Reagan ran, and he had 7 people in the 1980 election opposing him, and we used to call it Donald Reagan and the 7 Dwarfs. Well, there's 8 people opposing Trump, and I call it the White Knight, Trump, and the 8 Elves, because I didn't see anything up there that really impressed me other than Vivek, who is obviously running for vice president, and I think probably could make a very good vice president. He's 38 years old. That would set him up for being maybe in 2028 the youngest elected president ever. Kennedy was elected when he was 43.
Yep.
So Vivek would be 42. So I think those who were up on stage, I'll tell you what I found missing that you find with Trump and you didn't find with any of those 8. And that's the sense of outrage. You know, I live in New York, Pennsylvania, on a street that is lower middle income. I purposely chose it because I like working people and I don't like wealthy people. Okay. I'm just telling you my own. My father was a Methodist minister, and
Likewise.
yeah, it really, yeah. And so you know where I'm coming from. You know, we like the working people. I grew up in blue collar Baltimore back in the day when it was a great city, and these people on the street are hurting. This is not a joke to them. This is not a matter of, well, let's have a good discussion here. No, this is bread and butter to these people. They can't. My good friend Lou, a black friend down the street, has a window washing business. He has an old white van, and he works his rear end off. Well, he can hardly pay for gas now, thanks to what's been done to these people. You know, I look at my other neighbors and they are hurting. This is not a joke to them. This is not a matter for idle discussion, as we saw at that debate. And while I'm on a roll here, let me talk about some other people who are letting us down. And that is the Republican majority. I'll get to conservative ink in a minute, but the Republican majority in the House. Where are they? Jim Jordan, who I adored, has turned into Trey Gowdy 2.0. Okay? Well, I'm going to talk, and I'm going to talk, and I'm going to stop talking and do something. Impeach Joe Biden. Impeach Mayorkas at DHS. Impeach Gonzalez or whatever his name is over at education. Start the impeachment. And for God's sake, impeach Garland. All right? Do something.
I like it, Carter. But let me tease the next question of our show that we're going to be covering, and that is, what's the best way to actually accomplish that? If it is through the GOP, is it through Donald Trump and someone like a Vivek Ramaswamy or someone like a Ron DeSantis? We're going to discuss that, but first we're going to go ahead and give a shout out to today's sponsor, folks. You know who that sponsor is. It is the one, the only Cardio Miracle, folks. If you want boundless, truly boundless energy, if you want optimal heart health and a fresh start, look no further. Cardio Miracle is a revolutionary natural supplement that increases nitric oxide levels to relax blood vessels, reduce your blood pressure, and strengthen your cardiovascular system. I've been using Cardio Miracle now for over 3 months, and yes, I can in fact vouch for Cardio Miracle. And yeah, the Cardio Miracle difference, it's real. I love it as a pre-workout. I take it twice a day, morning and night, but I work out early AM, and I've noticed my lift and my pump has gotten so much better at the gym, number one. But number two, I'm sleeping so much better. And also I'm having way much more energy than I did before. So by boosting the circulation of the blood flow, here's how it works. Cardio Miracle delivers more oxygen and nutrients to your body's cells, which leads to enhanced energy, yes, reduced fatigue, yes, better sleep, yeah, and better heart health function. Optimized nitric oxide levels lead to also lowered body inflammation as well. So if you want to join the thousands of other folks who have transformed their health with Cardio Miracle, visit cardiomiracle.com today and use code TBNS at checkout for 15% off your order. And by the way, folks, did I mention there is literally no risk? There's a 100% money back guarantee. So what do you have to lose other than those sleepless nights and also that worry of wondering, are you doing the best you can for your heart health? So make the choice to take charge of your heart health, experience renewed energy, and embrace a healthier, happier life powered by Cardio Miracle. And again, get 15% off your order using code TBNS at checkout. Your heart will thank you. By the way, one more time, if you click the link in the show notes, by the way, it'll bring you right to cardiomiracle.com where the 15% discount will automatically be applied. But if you're an old school footy-duddy like yours truly, and you want to see that just actually take place there at checkout, go ahead and use code TBNS, 15% off your order, cardiomiracle.com. All right, Carter, what are we going to do here? The GOP, right? Are they going to, in fact, go with Donald Trump as the president? And then What are they going to do behind the scenes? Are they going to bring someone like a Ron DeSantis, a Vivek Ramaswamy, or someone else we haven't talked about? And will that, in fact, help make the difference in terms of addressing the problems we talked about beforehand?
Well, my opinion, I would be satisfied with Vivek. I mean, I'm not sure he's entirely trustworthy. He certainly is a great talker, but he says the right things. And I think if he were under Trump's thumb, he would do the right things. I would be satisfied with DeSantis. I mean, he's a great governor. He's not yet ready for prime time. That has become clear as his campaign has unfolded. Let me tell you something. I was in campaign politics for many, many years. I ran campaigns for governor, Senate, House across the country. When you have to fire your entire staff over and over again, the problem is not the staff, it's the candidate. Okay. And so he's not ready for prime time. But I think he would make a adequate vice president, and he could learn on the job, and then we'd be ready for him in 2028. So I think there's a lot of hope in that direction. I'll tell you who, if I were Trump, I would be sitting down and talking to and trying to persuade her to become vice president is Tulsi Gabbard. I think she would make a great vice presidential candidate. I think she would bring a lot of votes with her. People like her. She's solid. Some of the social issues, I don't like her stand, but in terms of fighting for what's right, she says and does the right things.
What about RFK Jr.?
RFK Jr., I would love to see RFK again. Some of it, this gun thing it bothers me, but I love the guy. I think he will bring, RFK, first of all, I think RFK Jr. is going to take out Biden. Okay.
Really?
Yeah, I think that's I think he'll take out Biden. And
tell me more. I want to hear more about that.
Well, I think he'll slaughter Biden in the primaries is what's going to happen, which is, and the Democrats want Biden to walk away after the first of the year. They want to wait till after the first of the year, based upon my experience in politics, because they don't want to give Kamala Harris a chance to be president for too long, maybe 15 minutes. And that may be too long, cackling Kamala. So they want to wait until after the first of the year. RFK will wipe out Kamala and Joe in the primaries. They will not allow RFK to get the nomination because the CIA won't allow it, even if they have to shoot the guy. But they will then turn to Gavin Newsom and have that smarmy SOB as their nominee. That's my prediction.
Well, and you can see, right? You're kind of you're calling what you're already seeing, right? Newsom's setting the groundwork. He's been trying to establish more of a national presence. He's calling out Ron DeSantis to do a debate. He's proposing amendments to the Constitution to infringe on the 2A. Like, you see, he's trying to get more of a persona. And I think, he obviously, of all the Democrats that are out there, he's probably their best choice beyond Michelle Obama, Oprah, Jon Stewart. I don't know who else the left could even think about promoting. I mean, Andrew Cuomo was going to be that person in 2020, and then everything behind the scenes there, fell apart, including, but not limited to, and it should have been the main focus, the whole nursing home scandal in New York with the COVID cases. But that we've addressed that a million times over here in the show. Right. But yeah, I mean, looking at the Democrats, it kind of makes sense that Joe Biden, I mean, he's on his way out, right? Mentally, he's completely checked out. And physically now it's starting to really be apparent it's catching up to him. And by the way, that's across the board for a lot of folks in Washington. We saw Mitch McConnell's brain break twice now in the past, 3 weeks?
Yeah. Here you have Joe Biden, who goes to Florida and tells us, well, this hurricane reached the landfill. No, it's landfall. It's landfall. I mean, it's just everything the man says and does is just betrays the fact that he is totally out of it. So they're going to get rid of him, just like they got rid of Cuomo, so they could move Gavin Newsom up. Newsom cannot win. Newsom comes across as what he is, smarmy and sleazy. Okay,
he's a Batman villain.
Oh, he's a Batman villain, and he's like a human lizard, and so he can't win, except for the fact that let me tell you a little something. Years ago, I was deep into politics in Honduras. I own a home there. My wife is from there.
Mhm.
And I said to a member of their Congress when the election was coming up, I think it was the 2008 when America installed Manuel Zelaya. And I said to this member of Congress, well, what are you looking forward to? What's your hope for the upcoming election? This is before the election. And he said, we're hoping to have one. Well, that's where we are in America today. 4 different scenarios would tell us we're not going to have a fair election for president coming up. We may have had elected our last president in a fair election, and that was in 2016. And now the powers that be, including the CIA, the deep state, after that mishap, are going to make sure it never happens again. That's my opinion. That's our real danger. That's our real danger. And I can give you 4 scenarios where they're laying the groundwork for it.
Well, how about this? Let's go ahead and do it now. Let's maybe go ahead and aim that as a part of your final thoughts, if you would. And if you would, as you're going through and outline those 4 different areas, you obviously give us a little context in terms of what we can do to play a part in helping maybe impact the outcome, right? Because I think that's what we're trying to do here at the show, is really direct the audience towards means of not just listening, right? To your point from very early on in the show, not just sitting there and talk, but actually get into action. I'd love to hear your thoughts there as well.
Yeah. I think they're going to corrupt the primary. The Democrats are going to corrupt their own primary, just as they did in 2020. Look, Biden was out of it. He was done before North Carolina. So they corrupted that election because Bernie was going to win. And I can understand their reluctance there, but they just said, no, Bernie's not going to get it. We're going to make believe that Biden is popular, which he never was. Look, Joe Biden could not get 80 million votes throughout the entire world, let alone in the United States alone. So I think they may corrupt their own primaries in order to select their designee. I think in the general election, okay? There's no doubt about that. I'm in Pennsylvania. We know in the middle of the night, the governor of this state, Tommy the Commie, decided that he would have 600 new votes come in for Biden on ballots, absentee ballots, that he then said do not need to have their signature verified, which was against the law in this state. So that's the other scenario. I think they will take out Trump, so that the Republicans cannot nominate their own candidate. I think they'll take him out through this. Don't underestimate what's going on in Georgia. Look, the thing in New York with that mad dog, Jack Smith, absurdity. We'll never go any. The Jordan thing, using RICO, was a stroke of genius. RICO is a bill of attainder. It's a frightening law that is unconstitutional. They could use to take Trump out. The 4th is just shoot him if necessary, as Tucker Carlson says. That's where we are. That is where we are. So you said, what's the alternative? How about the Republicans in the House standing up and saying something? Stop being deaf mutes. Stand up and fight back. Fight for, fight what's going on in Georgia. Say something, do something. Defund the FBI, defund the CIA. But look, the House has the power of the purse. Impeach people. Where are these people? We didn't elect them to take a nap, but that's what they've done. So the American people need to get on the phone. They need to call their member of the House. Mine is Scott Perry. Scott is, AWOL in the fight. AWOL. Come on, Scott. Wake up. Smell the coffee. Fight back. American people have to get hold of their congressman and say, we elected you to do a job, not to sleep on it.
No more Helen Keller caucuses, right? It's time for us to mix things up a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
And by the way, Carter, I really appreciate you helping articulate that for the audience, because again, we do want to be able to inspire folks to see that there's maybe opportunity for us to get involved and have something that we can as a call to action, right, for today's show.
Yeah.
Because I know I listen to podcasts a lot, and I'll get frustrated. And it's natural. You'll hear these issues, and sometimes you just feel like you're like a drop in the bucket. It's like, man, I can't really impact this, can I? You can. And number one, calling your representatives, that's huge, because that is not really often done unless it's, by folks who are pissed off. So use that as a tool in your toolbox, but also use the ballot box, right? The ballot box is the other means that is the most, I say, direct way to help actually articulate your voice, and that is through who you elect and who you vote for. But again, stop voting for these folks who go and sit in their hands and pretend that they can't hear and see anything. It's time. Yeah, it's time for us to actually get some folks who have some cojones that we can refer to, like Thomas Massey, right? Folks like him. 2020, right? He was the only person in the GOP who stood against that CARES Act, and God bless him, because he said what was going to happen, and here we are today with the worst inflation we've experienced in decades, and it's a direct result of that vote. And he spoke hard truths. God bless him for being that person. But I said a lot there. Carter, what do you have for us for kind of as we're wrapping things up here? And also, where can folks go ahead and obviously continue the conversation with you, support Constitutional Rights Pack, and all that good stuff?
Just go to constitutionalrightspack.com, sign up for the daily newsletter, and on top of that, you'll get an email from me, personal email from me every day, analyzing what's going on, okay, in addition to the newsletter. And you'll have my phone number on that email, my personal email address, and I respond to everyone, because here's what's the real key. The important people, and this is my final thought, the important people are not these people in Washington inside the Beltway. They're the people in heartland America. It's what they say that we need to hear. We don't need to hear anything anymore. Talk from those inside the Beltway. They need to act, and that's up to the American people to push them to do it.
Carter Clews, can't agree more, folks. If you got some value from today's episode, beyond the call to action, which is reach out to your representative, is to also share today's episode, inspire more folks to get involved and take action. If you would please go ahead, tag yours truly at B Nichols Liberty, x.com, formerly Twitter, and also Facebook. Carter, where can folks go ahead and reach out to you should they want to continue the conversation, but also find you guys on social media?
Constitutionalrightspack.com, or look, email me, clclews@gmail.com. Email me.
Easy enough. I love it. It's a direct way to get in touch. So please, folks, and by the way, we'll include all those links in the show notes. So if you're like many folks, they're at the gym working out, driving the kids to school, whatever it may be, don't worry. You don't got to stop, pull over, pull out a pen and paper, or jot down your phone. Just you go ahead to your show notes. All the links are right there. I got you. I got your back. No problem at all. With that being said, by the way, two things. You mentioned your email newsletter, Carter. I got to mention my email newsletter, Morning Sales Huddle. We are back. Yes, for the past month or so, I have finally gotten back into the swing of things. We're not doing it daily. I apologize. We cannot do it daily because I need to be able to breathe, because, yes, I am a new dad still, so 5 months into that. And thank you very much. And that's also why I had to change the format of the show. We were doing 5 days a week. We're down to 2 or 3. I was doing 5 emails a day for the Morning Sales Huddle. Now we're back. Well, I had 4 months off there, but now we're back to 1 a week. So, folks, if you want to go ahead, get real actionable sales tips and advice to your inbox every single week, stuff that I teach my teams in the sales development world, things we see work in the business to business environment, business to consumer environment, go subscribe to the Morning Sales Huddle. It's free. All I need is your email address and your first name, and you'll be getting your Morning Sales Huddle every single week from yours truly. I would greatly appreciate it. I'm sure you would greatly appreciate it as well. That's number one. Number two, I am rocking our Magic Money Tree shirt here today, which you can go ahead and find over at our shop at briannicholsshow.com/shop. Use code TBNS at checkout there for 15% off your order. And then where can you find the show? You're finding us somewhere because you're hearing us talk. But just in case you didn't know, we had other versions of the show. Well, for video, we have YouTube, we have Rumble, we have Ben Swan's Sovereign, SOVREN, which, by the way, if you are joining us on Sovereign, congratulations, because you're seeing today's episode before anybody else. That's your Sovereign exclusive. And yes, we are airing our entire episodes in their full length over on x.com. So if you want to go ahead and catch us over on, x.com, formerly Twitter, go to our platform there at B Nichols Liberty. And then for the podcast version of the show, YouTube Music, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever it is you get your podcast delivered. You can find the Brian Nichols Show, hit that subscribe button. And also, when you're watching us on the YouTube versions of the show, subscribe button, little notification bell, and of course, hit that like button. That helps us reach more people with what we're talking about here at the Brian Nichols Show, which is to help bring the ideas of liberty to your average individuals talking about solving the problems we see folks out there experiencing with our solutions, but more importantly, leaving folks educated, enlightened, and informed. That's all I have for you today. Carter, any last thoughts before we go ahead and say goodbye to the audience today?
No, just thank you for the opportunity, Brian.
Carter, it was an absolute blast. Thank you so much. And folks, again, if you got value, go ahead, give it a share. And by the way, we're going to go ahead and continue the conversation over here on YouTube. So stick around. Video should be popping up right about there. Otherwise, with that being said, Brian Nichols signing off here on the Brian Nichols Show for Carter Clews from the Constitutional Rights Pack. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Brian Nichols Show. Find more episodes at briannicholsshow.com.